Sometimes we write to persuade other people. We're trying to pitch our ideas to change minds or to inspire other people to take action. As Benjamin Franklin said, if you would persuade, you must appeal to interest rather than intellect. We can be easily persuaded by an interesting story or a famous quote, even if it's not good data. But other times, we're writing to try to find the truth. We write how we'll solve a problem. We'll write our own career plan. We write our reasons for making an important decision. Now, we might let these questions rattle around in our head, but when something's important, we need to write it down. We can only hold about 4 pieces of information in our head at once. When we write, we can retain ideas, arrange them more meaningfully, and figure out if they're true. When we write like this, we're not really trying to persuade. If we get it wrong, it does nothing but take us further from our goals. The problem is, as Richard Feynman put it, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Now, how do you avoid the allure of an articulate authority? How do you write so that you write more often? Well, in 2006, Elie had this problem. He was working at Bridgewater Associates, which is one of the world's biggest and most successful hedge funds. That fund prides itself on its culture of transparency. As a hedge fund, their job is to bet almost $200 billion on complex investments, so they want to be right more often than not. At Bridgewater, Elie learned that being transparent helped him figure out when he might be wrong. You probably want to know if there's a gaping hole in your analysis, or you might end up with a gaping hole in your investment portfolio. Now, Elie and his colleagues were doing so well that they wanted to give some of the money that they earned to charity. Their day job was finding the best investments to make money. Their passion became finding the best investments to save lives. Elie said, "I found myself staying up on Friday nights until 3 in the morning, reading academic papers about diarrhea." He did that because diarrhea kills 500,000 kids a year. That's 8 jumbo jets worth of children every day. Most of these deaths are preventable, and Elie wanted to know how to prevent them most effectively. He and his colleague Holden Karnofsky started writing as a way of figuring out what worked. They ran into a problem. Many charities weren't transparently explaining what they did. Instead, the charities were writing to persuade. Elie and Holden were on National Public Radio describing their experience of calling up charities. The charities would tell Holden, "Well, $20 will provide a child with clean water for life." And I would say, "What does that mean? How do you do that? Do you dig wells? Where do you dig those wells? How long do the wells last? Why did the children need clean water? What happens to them if they don't get clean water?" These were probably harder questions than they were used to, but the charities didn't seem to have the answers. The answers weren't on the internet, they weren't in their reports, and Elie found that charities were reluctant to share them even privately. When you asked them how they got the $20 number, their reasoning wasn't transparent. Elie and Holden asked themselves, how are you supposed to trust that number if you don't show the maths behind it? Now, you can kind of empathize with the charities. Keeping good data across your whole organization is hard. Doing the monitoring that would allow you to answer these questions also costs money. That's money that isn't being spent on actually delivering the programs. But if you're trying to do as much good as you can, you might need to be able to answer some of these questions. You want to know if your program is working, how much it's working, and when it's working. It's easy to neglect these questions and just focus on delivering programs. But understanding what is true is fundamental to doing good because it can help us do better. And being more transparent helps us find that truth. And expecting transparency from others helps us know who to trust. It's like when you're dating. Imagine you're with someone who never let you in their house. You'd be kind of suspicious. What have they got in there? A clouder of cats? A tribe of troll dolls? It's harder to trust someone with a firmly closed front door. You also start to act differently if you knew someone was coming over to your house. You might make your bed, clean up your sink, or throw a blanket over your troll dolls. Not for your guest, but for the troll dolls, they get cold. When you need to be transparent, you get your house in order. Because transparency can make you more trustworthy, transparency can also make you more persuasive, even if that's not the goal. The reverse isn't true. Getting to the truth can make you more persuasive, but being more persuasive doesn't get you closer to the truth. So, when you want to find the truth, start by getting your writing in order. First, focus on the most important questions. If you want to know how well a charity saves lives, focus less on their CEO's salary or their overhead spend. These only matter if they pull down the cost effectiveness of the programs. Sometimes a great CEO can make a charity more cost-effective. Sometimes overheads are spent on measuring which programs are cost-effective. So if you're worried about cost-effectiveness, focus on the actual cost-effectiveness. Focus on how important the problem is and how well their programs solve the problem per dollar. When looking for the important questions, you can figure out what's most important by asking yourself, how much would a different answer here change my mind? If I learned a program cost 10 times what I thought it did, that would almost certainly change my mind. If I learned a CEO got paid 10 times what I thought they did, that might only change it a little bit, especially if the cost effectiveness of the program stayed the same. If you're planning an intervention or a career plan, the important questions are why you think it'll work, how well you think it'll work, and how much do you think it'll cost. When planning a career, you might ask, what problems do I think are most important? What ways do I think might solve them? And which of those approaches do I fit best? Once you've focused on the most important questions, be clear about what you know and how you know it. When I was writing an essay at university, I would just plonk a list of citations at the end of each sentence to prove that I was right. Some of these would even be whole textbooks. It's like I was just assuming that the reader would trust that the book must have said that thing somewhere inside of it. This isn't very transparent. Instead, it's more transparent to list your sources, but be specific about what you got from where. For example, when Elie's team were explaining how chlorine treats water, they provided a direct quote from the World Health Organization in the footnote with a link to the quote and a page number. This makes it very easy to track down the evidence you're using for the claim, so it's less likely that you'll fool yourself or fool other people. You also want to use the most credible evidence. The World Health Organization is more credible than my general vibes. In part, that's because they're so transparent as well. Being transparent is their #1 tip for being trusted and credible. When writing like this, it helps to be transparent about how good your evidence is. If you have a meta-analysis of randomized trials of chlorine dispensers for treating diarrhea, then say so. If you don't have any randomized trials, but you're going off a hunch or an interview with an expert, then that's fine too, just say so. If you've done some calculations yourself, then link to the spreadsheet where you did the calculations. If you want to be right, be transparent about what you know and how you know it. If you make your reasoning transparent like this, you can get feedback from others if your assumptions are wrong now, rather than finding out once it's too late. It can feel threatening to expose your thinking like this, but it's more threatening to have your whole career or a whole project fall apart. The hardest problem with this approach is that it takes much more space than a persuasive tweet.
OMG, people. So apparently chlorine can make drinking water safe. Please donate more pools to third world countries so they can drink clean water too.
To make your writing more useful for others who might be busy, start with a linked summary of those most important points at the top. With all that up front, people can understand your argument by reading the first 5 lines. If they want to, let them skip down to the section where you justify each claim. Writing in this way also helps you to think more clearly, find critical problems in your own argument, and helps people trust you. Elie and Holden wanted to think more clearly about what charities worked, and worked to put their writing online for other people to critique. They left their hedge fund jobs to start GiveWell, a transparent evaluator looking for the most cost-effective charities. According to Giving What We Can, they're the most trustworthy charity evaluator in global health and development. Now, you're probably not going to try and start a new charity evaluator, but whatever you do, you probably want to be correct about your most important questions. To do that, focus on the key questions. Try writing what you know and how you know it. Be specific about what claims you got from where and how you reached your conclusion. Writing like this also helps you think more clearly. It stops you from fooling yourself into believing something that you can't justify properly. I thought my troll dolls really did brighten up my bedroom, but no. No, they didn't. I thought my career plan was really well thought out, but no, that wasn't either. When I made my career plan more transparent, it helped me see some key assumptions I just couldn't justify, but I could easily test. With my projects at work, transparent reasoning helps me see holes in my logic before I fall in them. It might not be as evocative as a quote by a Nobel Prize winner, but as Desmond Tutu says, don't raise your voice, improve your argument.